So if you stop training because of pain in the gym and you're worried that you're going to make things worse by continuing your training, I need you to watch this. So if you haven't heard this before, I would love to be the first to tell you that it is safe to train with pain in the gym. Now, this isn't permission to just ignore all the aches and pains you feel and do whatever you want. We have to be smart about this. So in this video, we're going to talk about 5 things you need to know to assess your pain and train in the gym. So with this, it's not about freaking out or avoiding pain, and it's also not just forcing our way through it, but understanding it and knowing what pain could be good to work with and what pain we might want to pull back from to get the most out of our training, especially if you're dealing with chronic pain. I'm going to share with you a monitoring system that I use with all of my clients as they're training with chronic pain in the gym. At the end of this, not only are you going to understand pain a little bit better, but you'll actually be able to walk into the gym with your chronic pain and continue to train and make progress.
Don't worry, Justin has a medical disclaimer that this is for educational and entertainment purposes only.
So the first thing that we have to understand is pain itself. Now that sounds dramatic, but pain is not purely biomechanical. I'll say that again. Pain is not purely biomechanical. What that means is everyone likes to blame the certain body part that they feel pain in for that being the only reason that they're in pain. Like, it has to be my knee, it has to be my back. But especially as science continues to study pain, one of the biggest things that we've learned is pain is multifactorial, meaning a lot of shit can affect how you feel. I'll give you an example. This is very true when it comes to low back pain. I, as a chronic low back pain enjoyer, tend to experience it in fluctuations in my day-to-day. When I experience an extreme amount of stress, whether that's work-related or life-related, my back pain tends to follow it to a T. And there are days where I feel really, really good, and that pain feels like it's almost never been there in the first place. And especially with my clients, you'll hear stories of, oh, my kid did this, my cousin did that, my girlfriend, boyfriend, partner did whatever, and the pain just follows like a consistent trail with it, but in the most inconsistent ways. That's pretty interesting to see. So that's why it's super important to understand that, as frustrating as this process is, when you train with pain in the gym, just know that things in the multifactorial aspects of your life will affect how you feel. And once you understand those things, you can keep track of them and adjust when you get to your workouts. There's this fun model called the biopsychosocial model of pain, where it was one of the first steps that we took to understand pain beyond that biological lens, beyond just ouch here means that like something here is causing the issue. So if you start to think about what biopsychosocial stands for, we have biological, psychological, and sociological things that can affect how you feel. Like mindset, social support, socioeconomic status, all of those things can affect your pain. Even something as simple as working out with a group of friends versus working out by yourself can make or break a pain experience for that day. This one joint or this one muscle is not the only thing that we can point our fingers at as we're trying to train with pain. Now, the second thing that we need to go with as we're training with pain in the gym is having a baseline. We need a number or some sort of metric that we can lean on to make sure that we're not making things too crazy, or that, hey, I feel pretty good, maybe I can get a little bit more out of today. And here we have the traffic light monitoring system for pain. So I'm sure you know a traffic light, it has a green light, a yellow light, and a red light. With those lights, we can actually use that when it comes to gauging our pain for the day. And not only gauging that pain, but actually seeing what moves we need to make to adjust for whatever we feel based on those lights. So if you've ever been in pain, or if you've been to the doctor, they probably told you, oh, I want you to rate your pain on a scale of 0 to 10. 0 being no pain, 10 being the worst pain imaginable, we gotta get you to the hospital yesterday. This scale does have its pros and cons, but at least for me, I like to tell my clients that I want you to view this scale in tandem with the traffic light system that we use. So before we move on, it's important to understand that green light is 0 to 3 on this scale, yellow light is 4 to 5 on the scale, and red light is 6 to 10 on the pain scale. Before you go into the gym, or just in general in your day-to-day, it could be nice to get a number or some range of this light, just to gauge how you're feeling and what decisions need to be made when you get to your training. For example, I did lift today, and my pain, I gave it around like, I'd say baseline 2 to 3. So I was in that green light range, but I was peering towards yellow light. What that meant was I took a little bit more, I paid a little bit more attention to my warm-ups to make sure that what I was feeling wouldn't get up too crazy and push into that yellow or red light, but also not get into my head too much and make sure that I had a good training session. And the warm-ups are really helpful for that, so you can monitor how you feel instead of just jumping right into the heavy weights you're supposed to do. What do I do when I feel certain aspects of the traffic light system? Like, what does green light mean? What does yellow or red light mean? When you do feel a green light, like 0 to 3 on that scale of 10, usually that means you're good to go. Proceed with the plan as normal. Just put the pain in the back of your head. You're good. Yellow light, or that 4 to 5 out of 10 on that scale, we want to start to be a little cautious. We want to start to slow down. That's where you might want to introduce a little bit more warm-up sets. Maybe if you have some movements that traditionally help you monitor these symptoms, you want to start paying a little bit of attention to that as you're adding weight to see if things are actually peering towards red light or if it starts to warm up more towards a green light. One thing I like to tell my clients is if we're in that green or yellow light phase or light of training and its pain is staying the same or is getting better, you're probably good to train. If things are starting to get worse and it's getting a little bit more and more annoyed, modify your training or live to fight another day. Now, red light is stop. So this is that 6 or more on that scale of 10. This is usually like sharp pain, twinges, or intolerable pain that just like, it really gets your attention and makes you move differently. And that's something that I look for when I watch videos. It's like, if I know how my client squats and I know how I squat or how I bench or move in general, and I start to see very obvious signs like that it just changes the atmosphere of the workout itself, then I start to modify for my clients or I modify for myself. So an example of this is I currently am dealing with a pretty nasty meniscus tear. And when I go into about that mid-range of the squat, I get that pretty sharp twinge that does not feel fun. So if I don't warm up properly or if I don't manage the warm-up sets appropriately, it turns into red light pretty fast throughout the workout. Now there are some days where it just is not happening. Like I said earlier in the video, if shit happens in life, it's gonna affect how you feel. Sometimes no matter what I do, it's just inevitable to feel that pain. So that's where I have to manage the workouts, maybe modify how fast I'm moving in the lift, maybe lower the weight or change the variation or make a call that still lets me train. And that is the biggest thing that I want to share with you, is that there are so many ways to modify your training. It's rare, absolutely rare, that you have to stop altogether. And the more you learn about ways to modify training in the gym, the more that you can continue to train no matter what chronic pain you're dealing with. There's a science to this stuff, but then there's also the art that makes me very proud to do what I do. And the more you learn about that art and how to be agile and navigate the different aspects of training with chronic pain, the more you can continue to do so and get stronger for the rest of your life. And funny enough, that's a nice segue into our third point when it comes to training and monitoring chronic pain in the gym, is that you have to be agile when it comes to training. And when I view agility in the gym, I also view it as being accountable. And to be very forward with you, it's understanding that no one is going to save you in this process. A lot of times when people inquire to work with me, they're thinking, oh, Justin, like you have these magic exercises or this magic routine, this stretch or strengthening or whatever, that's gonna get rid of this chronic pain forever and I can train no matter what, right? If I knew that, I would not be here in my garage. I think social media and a lot of what we're sold promises you this quick fix of like, oh, just do these 5 exercises to bulletproof your knees or your ankle, your back or whatever, or steal my warm-up routine to prevent these things from happening. But the reality is you can't prevent pain. Sure, you can reduce the risk of injury from happening, and that's where things like getting stronger, moving faster, being more mobile can help with. But the reality is you are going to feel pain, and no one is going to save you from that. Now, here's the silver lining of that. You have the ability to help yourself. The more you learn from others and yourself, and the more you continue to take ownership and apply what you learn to your training, the better outcomes you'll get versus people that just accept their situation as it is and there's no hope for them at all. They view themselves as, I am a helpless individual and I'm the only person dealing with this. No one else is dealing with what I'm dealing with. So when it comes to being agile and it comes to being in control of your workouts and in control of yourself, you have to sit with yourself and acknowledge the patterns that you develop and you display and challenge them, especially if they're not being productive towards getting you back to training comfortably. So I'll give you some examples. There are some people that are very neurotic with their training. They feel every little ache and pain, or 0.25 pounds on the bar is missing, and they feel like it's the end of the world. Those are the people, like I said, they will focus on every little sensation in their body and say, oh, nope, can't do this. It feels weird. I'm just going to train tomorrow or the next day. And that turns into weeks, months, years. But then you also have people that will just bulldoze their way through training and be like, oh, I feel very sharp pains in my knees, but I got to be tough and I'm going to fight through it. And I don't care what happens after. And then the next day their knee is swollen or their back is inflamed or they have a nice flare up that just shows you, hey, you should not have done that. And there's a bunch of different personalities and examples that make this process so unique when it comes to monitoring your pain in the gym. But the reason I mention it is that if you do not address those things and admit to yourself that you have those patterns, you're going to be stuck in the same exact spot. And it's going to be this vicious cycle of, I feel pain, I do this thing that fits my current personality, keeps me in pain because that personality feeds into those bad habits that stops me from tolerating pain in the gym. And the cool thing is, once you understand how your personality and how your independence shows itself in the gym, you can start to take action, like saying, hey, I'm feeling these aches and pains, but I also notice it's only at the bottom of my squat or right when the bar touches my chest in the bench press. Maybe if I just shorten the range of motion so I don't go to those ranges, oh, it feels better. I can continue to train. Or simply saying, hey, when I get to 500 pounds on my squat, my back feels like shit, but I do 400 pounds and it feels pretty good. I will stay at 400 pounds for a couple of weeks and see if I can work my way back up. There are a lot of ways you can manage things in the gym as you're monitoring pain to keep training while this pain is there. It's better than doing nothing. I promise you that. So now here is tip number 4, managing flare-ups. So that could be a whole video in and of itself, and that is not the main focus of this video. However, understanding that if you do get a flare-up, you need to know what to do. And like I said, it could be a whole other video, but the quickest tips I can give you is to back off. Usually when it comes to a flare-up, you did too much too soon, and you will know that either within the workout. That's where people say, oh, I felt a pop in my back, felt a strain or a weirdness. You did a little bit too much too soon that your body was not ready for. Or you feel great in the workout, everything went fine, and then the days after, you feel like shit. That usually means that the dosage of what you've done, the amount of work that you did, was a little bit too much too soon for what your body could handle in that moment. Maybe you could have handled it before, maybe you could have handled it in the future. The current version of us, it was a little bit too much. Now that doesn't mean that you messed up everything and you have to walk away from the whole workout and you're doomed to never train again because of chronic pain. But you have to understand that we have to take some steps to adjust for this. The easiest thing to do is if you have a flare-up, do some feel-good movements that you know traditionally make you feel a little bit more looser, a little bit more calmed down, and ease off of things for a couple of days. Could be even a week or more. It's okay. You are going to get back to what you were doing before. I promise you that. A helpful analogy when it comes to flare-ups is to think about someone who punched the shit out of your shoulder. Now, if you get punched in the shoulder, it's going to be red, it's going to be sore, and it's going to feel like crap. Now, what's the solution to this? It's not to keep punching that part of your shoulder and just keep hitting it, hoping that it gets better, it gets used to it. It's to stop punching it and let it calm down and let that soreness and that redness do what it needs to do naturally to get back to a baseline, which takes a couple of days. If you keep letting that someone or something or yourself punch your shoulder, it's never going to get a chance to calm down. So when you do have a flare-up, give it some time, do some gentle movements that make it feel a little bit better, and then you'll get back to a modified version of your workout. Do not go back to the same exact thing. Modify it and then build up from there. And now the last tip I wanted to share with you kind of shares a little bit of similarity with the first tip I gave you when it came to understanding the multifactorial aspect of pain, but this is going to narrow in a little bit more on the things outside of our body. Let's talk about how your day-to-day life can affect your pain in the gym, especially if you're dealing with chronic pain. It is so important that you understand the stuff you do outside of the gym is just as important, if not more important, than what you're currently doing in the gym. So the easiest way I can explain this, and I say this with as much love as I can give you, if you are training hard and you're doing things right and you're sticking to your program to a T, but you still feel those aches and pains and it's kind of getting out of your control, but you're not sleeping, you're eating like shit, and you're drinking alcohol, and you're doing so many things that go against your recovery in the gym, you cannot expect to get better. You cannot expect to get stronger, you cannot expect to get faster, and you cannot expect to manage this pain and get it into a tolerable way if you are not managing how you're living your life outside of the gym. And I'm not saying that you cannot have fun and eat certain things and have fun with your friends socially and whatnot. What I am saying is, if that is just your lifestyle, if every single day, 80% of your day is lack of sleep, eating poorly, not drinking water, those things can make your pain worse. And like I said, there's no stretch, there's no exercise, there's no program that can save you from that. You have to understand, sometimes getting out of chronic pain, or managing chronic pain, I should say, comes with a lot of hard work in and out of the gym. And I think one of those things when it comes to lifestyle that not many people appreciate is social support. Especially if you were dealing with pain, it fucking sucks. I've been dealing with chronic pain since 2016, and there are a lot of times throughout this journey that I felt like shit. This is where social support is huge. If you have people in your circle that you can lean on, that don't mind lending you an ear when you feel like crap, it is awesome to have that support throughout this journey. Now here's the thing. If you are feeling down and you are feeling that these emotions are getting out of your hand and you're feeling straight out depressed, you need to reach out and talk to someone. Like I said, I get it. Pain sucks. And when it takes away from the things that you enjoy a lot in this life, you need all the help you can get. You are not alone when dealing with this problem. And if the more you lean on this social support and the more you lean on people around you to help, the better you'll see this journey becomes. So as much as we want all this control of the things inside of the gym, you have to understand that life happens and the things outside of the gym are just as important. So the next time you feel like giving up on training because of the pain you're feeling in the gym, use these tips to help you monitor the pain and understand how to modify training to let you continue in a safe way and get stronger. And if you still don't feel confident managing pain on your own, even with these tips, I help people all the time manage chronic pain and train to hit PRs in the gym, get stronger, move faster, and feel better without spending so much time managing all of these little pieces and just having the whole thing come together to just get stronger and be better. So if you need help, leave a comment or shoot me a message and I'd be more than happy to connect with you.